Some people say the Superstition Mountains are cursed, and I'm going to warn you right now, I'm going to mess that up. Probably a couple of times. Not metaphorically, not in the bad luck kind of way, cursed as in something out there doesn't want to be found. Every few years it happens again. A man disappears, a camp is found abandoned, a journal surfaces claiming the gold was real, and the Lost Dutchman's legend swells once more. In this episode of Cracked Relic, we're heading into the sunburned heart of Arizona, into the rocky guts of the Superstition Wilderness, where the line between folklore, obsession, and death has vanished like so many of the people who chased it. They call it the Lost Dutchman's Mine, but the Dutchman was German, and the mine, well, if it exists at all, it's never been found by anyone who lived to tell the story. The legend begins with a man named Jacob Waltz. Born in Germany in 1810, Waltz immigrated to America and eventually found his way to Arizona territory during the mid-1800s. He was a prospector, a loner, and according to some accounts, a man who struck gold. Waltz never publicly claimed to own a mine, but he occasionally showed up in town with extraordinarily rich gold ore. Dense, pure, and unlike what others were finding nearby. It raised eyebrows. People asked questions. Waltz didn't answer them. He was quiet, secretive, and possibly a thief. More on that later, and also don't come after me if you're a descendant of Waltz. I don't want no smoke. Okay, cool. In 1891, at the age of 81, Waltz fell ill and was taken in by a woman named Julia Thomas, who nursed him in his final days. On his deathbed, Waltz reportedly told her the location of his gold source, describing landmarks, a hidden canyon, and an old Spanish mine buried in the heart of the Superstition Mountains. After his death, Julia and a group of others searched for the mine and came up empty. But the damage was done. A rumor had become a legend, and the idea of unimaginable wealth waiting in the desert began its slow burn through the minds of thousands. Death came early to the legend. One of the oldest stories tied to the Lost Dutchman comes from the Peralta family, a group of Mexican miners said to have operated a gold mine in the Superstition Mountains in the early 1800s. The legend says the family was ambushed and massacred by Apache warriors in 1848 while transporting gold out of the region. The gold, according to some versions, was buried nearby, never discovered. Skeptics dismiss this as folklore, but others claim bones, tools, and ore caches have been discovered near the supposed massacre site. Then there's the story of the two German men who reportedly found rich veins of gold near Weaver's Needle in the late 1800s. Not long after, they were found murdered and decapitated, their heads missing, their camp looted, and the gold gone. But the most famous early death came in 1931. Adolph Ruth, a 66-year-old Washington, D.C. treasure hunter, ventured into the superstitions with a map he believed matched the Dutchman's clues. He never came out. Months later, searchers found his skull in a ravine, with what appeared to be 2 bullet holes in it. The rest of his skeleton was eventually discovered over a mile away. Among his recovered belongings was a journal that included the ominous final line, Veni Vidi Vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. I mean, you got conquered. You didn't conquer, per se. Despite the gunshot evidence, authorities chalked his death up to exposure and wild animals. But for most, the explanation never sat right. The legend took on a new layer. The mine wasn't just hidden, it was protected. The Superstition Wilderness is a jagged maze of unforgiving terrain, towering cliffs, narrow slot canyons, sudden drop-offs, and miles of sun-blasted rock that plays tricks on the eyes. GPS signals cut out, paths vanish in the sand, and once you're lost, you're really fucking lost. And the mountain doesn't care who you are. In 2009, a 35-year-old hotel bellhop named Jesse Capen from Denver set out to find the Dutchman's Mine. Jesse wasn't some thrill seeker. He was methodical, obsessive. He'd studied the story for more than a decade, scouring old maps, tracing rumors, building out binders of notes. At his apartment, police found a massive archive, annotated books, photos, treasure maps, everything color-coded and meticulously filed. He arrived in Arizona in early November and told friends he'd be gone for 3 days. He never came back. His vehicle was found parked at the trailhead. His tent was discovered in a remote area of the mountains, abandoned. For 3 years, there was nothing else. Then, in 2012, rescue teams found Jesse's remains wedged inside a narrow crevasse, halfway up a rock face. His backpack and some gear were stuck above him, suggesting he'd either fallen or become trapped while climbing. But the odd part, his camera still had power. His camp had food, and he'd left no note, no call for help. His family believes he found something, or got close enough that something or someone didn't want him leaving with it. A year later, in 2010, 3 men from Utah, Curtis Meerworth, Ardeen Charles, and Malcolm Meeks, entered the Superstition Mountains. All 3 were experienced hikers. Meerworth reportedly had a map passed down from a family member who claimed to have met Waltz decades earlier. They were last seen on the outskirts of the range. Their campsite was located a week later. Gear scattered, no signs of struggle. No bodies were found. It took years before partial remains were discovered in a ravine, badly decomposed and too incomplete to match to any one of them with certainty. Rangers believed they may have gotten lost, succumbed to heat, and fallen. But treasure hunters online have other theories. Some claim they were followed. Others say they found the mine and were silenced. Others still point to the strange trail formations reported near their last known location. Cairns and unnatural rock piles and burnt brush, like someone or something was signaling or warning. Rangers who patrol the area say the pattern is always the same. A lone man or a small group, over-prepared, overconfident, and gone. Getting into the deep of it now. The longer you look at the Dutchman's story, the stranger it gets. Because the mine isn't just about gold anymore. It's about what the search does to people, and what people say they see out there. Let's start with the basics. The mine is real. Some believe Waltz discovered a lost Spanish or Mexican mine, possibly built by the Peralta family before the 1848 massacre. The Peralta stone maps, discovered in the 1940s, seem to support this idea. carved symbols etched in sandstone and red quartz featuring landmarks, coded distances, and the infamous heart-shaped rock. If the maps are real, they may lead directly to the mine, but no one has ever followed them all the way. 2. Waltz was a thief. And I know, that's a really bad thing to say about somebody. And I'm not saying it personally, so please do not come at me for this if you are part of the family. I doubt you would, but still, nonetheless, I don't want that smoke. A more skeptical take is that Waltz never had a mine, just stolen gold. Some believe he robbed a smelter or ambushed travelers transporting ore, then hid the treasure deep in the superstitions and invented the mine story as a cover. This would explain the inconsistencies in his supposed clues. Some were precise, others nonsense. Maybe because there was nothing to find. The government buried it. This theory's louder than you'd expect. Treasure forums are filled with claims of government helicopters, satellite interference, and strange, restricted zones deeper in the wilderness. Some claim military operations sealed off portions of the superstitions after hikers got too close. One drone pilot said his feed cut out mid-flight as he passed over a shadowed canyon near Weaver's Needle. The next day, his drone was gone from the site, and an unmarked SUV was parked where he'd left his gear. Was it paranoia, or were they watching? The curse, skinwalkers, and more. Now we enter the realm of folklore. The Apache people have long considered the Superstition Mountains a sacred and dangerous place. Some legends say the range hides a portal to the underworld, a crack in the earth where spirits roam freely. Others say it's home to skinwalkers. I'm more behind that one. Shape-shifting entities from Navajo lore that mimic voices and wear human forms. Though Apache and Navajo traditions differ, the belief in something dangerous stalking the land runs deep in both. Modern hikers have reported voices calling their names, shadows pacing them from the cliffs, flickering lights deep in the canyons, sudden gaps in memory or lost time. Some believe these encounters aren't skinwalkers at all, but wendigos, spirit creatures from Algonquin folklore said to haunt areas tied to greed, starvation, or cannibalism. It doesn't line up with the geography, but the symbolism fits. A cursed gold mine, endless obsession, and the desert devouring anyone who wants more than they should. Even park rangers, typically quiet on the subject, have hinted at strange stories. One anonymously quoted ranger said, "It's not just the heat that gets you out there. There's something else, something that doesn't want to be seen." And I do actually have to agree with the Wendigo deal. I got a story about that, and whatever, as it has to do with me. I'm a part of this story, but it didn't happen to me. It happened to my friend while I was on the phone with him. So maybe I'll have an episode where I talk about the weird stuff that's happened to me just out there and about. Comment below if you would like to see that. Every time someone disappears in the Superstition Mountains, the same pattern plays out. Search teams comb the canyons, helicopters sweep the ridgelines, articles get written, forums light up, and after a few weeks, the attention fades. But the mountain keeps the secret. You'd think the body count would slow the obsession, but if anything, it fuels it. People come from all over the world with maps in their glove box and a flashlight in their pack, convinced they're the ones who will finally beat the legend. convinced that they're smarter, faster, or better prepared. And maybe they are, until they're not. Even when people don't vanish, they often come back shaken, quiet about what they saw and what they heard. The kind of silence that sticks to you, that makes you wonder whether what they found out there was gold or something they weren't supposed to find at all. A few former hikers have gone public, anonymously, saying they felt watched for days. One man claimed he heard someone walking in lockstep behind him for hours, matching every move he made. He turned around again and again. There was nothing, but the sound never stopped. Another said he reached what he thought was a cave entrance, only to see it sealed shut the next morning as if it had never existed. These stories get brushed off, hallucinations, heat stroke, and imagination, but they repeat again and again. And whether it's bad luck, desert madness, or something darker, the truth is that people keep dying, and the mountain never says why. The Lost Dutchman Mine is one of the most enduring legends in American history. It's not just a treasure story, it's a cautionary tale. A riddle without an answer. A siren's call buried in dry rock and shifting sun. People have been chasing this thing for over 130 years, and they're not done. Right now, right at this moment, someone is probably hiking into the Superstitions, armed with old clues, a handheld GPS, in the belief that they'll succeed where everyone else failed. Maybe they will. Or maybe the mine isn't real. Maybe it never was. But the deaths are. The disappearances are. And the mountain, it keeps what it wants. So if you ever find yourself out there and you hear your own name whispered on the wind, maybe turn around. Because there are some places that don't want to be found, and some treasures that were never meant to be taken. This was Cracked Relic, and this was my episode on the Superstition Mountains and the Dutchman's Treasure. I hope you liked it. As always, sources will be in the description and coming up in the credits. Thank you for watching.